All right, what is up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Real Fitness Show. You guys know it, the only show where we talk about what fitness really is, how you should use it, and how it can really improve your life. And to do so, today I have the honor to introduce you to my colleague, Charlie Johnson. Charlie is honestly one of the best fitness coaches in the industry. He's an absolute role model in how he does fitness and coaching. And he's even been named a top 3 coach in the world by Forbes Magazine, right? Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. That's correct.
So with many years of experience and over 8,000 client transformations, he's here today to share with us his view on what a real fitness transformation entails and to give us some insight on how you guys can transform your body starting today. So Charlie, brother, I'm super pumped to have you on the podcast today. So welcome to the show.
Pleasure. And firstly, thank you very much for the invite, because I know a lot of the information you put out is very real and to the point, and it's very much in alignment with my values, which is why I was more than happy to come on, because there's a lot of people out there who put a lot of shit out into the world in terms of social media, in terms of fitness and health. And I think then it's both mine and your responsibility to try and help give people the right guidance so that they don't get frustrated and don't give up, because in reality, it's not that difficult to have the body you want and have the life you want when you know how, but you don't know what you don't know.
Exactly, man. And I appreciate you saying that. I guess, listen, these days you go on social media and and I know you've recently started to kind of like busting some myths and exposing some people, but not for the fact of exposing anyone, but it's just like there's so much misunderstanding and so much confusion put out there because it's clickbait, right? I say, hey, if you do this trick, you're gonna lose 20 pounds in 2 weeks, and then a lot of people fall for that, and it's then our job as coaches to kind of like come in here and be like, well, listen, this is how it actually works. It's not that sexy maybe sometimes, but it's the way that it actually works. And with your experience, you obviously have helped thousands and thousands of people doing this, and it's not with like little tricks and hacks. It's about just finding the things that are going to be effective on the long term, right? So
100%. I think that's what I'm trying to do. I think that's one of the things, the worst thing that happens. People see something that's gimmicky and then they try it, they don't lose weight or they don't get in shape, and then they blame themselves. Then they get disheartened and they don't want to try anymore. And that's what my big problem is with people like pushing gimmicky shit that doesn't work.
yeah, because many times you get these individuals who like, I've tried 100 different things, but then all those things that they tried are like fat diets or gimmicks or hacks and whatever, and they end up relating that to themselves, like, oh, it must be me, like I might be the one who's not going to be able to get in shape. But in reality is that, hey, you never really got in that one thing that worked for you, or that it was actually some science based or effective or whatever. I'm super pumped to jump into transformation talk with you because again, you're one of the biggest experts in the world. But just for our audience to kind of like get to know you a little bit better, I know you have a kind of interesting journey to becoming a coach. So why don't you start by telling us a little bit about why you started, first of all, working out and getting into fitness, and then coaching people and then becoming the coach that you are today?
So I think one of the reasons why I take such a personal vendetta against people who put out misinformation and then almost lead people astray, so people get frustrated and they don't think they can achieve results. Because I used to be overweight when I was younger, so I used to be a fat kid. I used to drink. I had a weird phase where all I would drink was orange juice. I wouldn't drink water. Obviously, orange juice is full of sugar, so I got very fat. I now drink water now, if anyone's worried. So that, like, I've been through all these processes, like, and I've had to learn the hard way. And I'm not genetically gifted by any means, but I've learned out how to like optimize things for my own body, my own structure. And like the big thing with people who are great coaches is it's, well, like there's loads of people in awesome shape, but what you want to look at is not whether that person can get themselves in decent shape. Like that's a prerequisite, you should be if you're a trainer, in my opinion. But it's whether they've done it with other people and they can apply that, because there's a lot of different things that come into helping people transform their physique. So my background is very relatable because I used to be overweight, and then I also worked in a proper corporate job managing a real estate business from when I was 20 to 28, 29. So I understand how to like fit this in around a proper job, around work pressures, where you can't just go to the gym at 11 o'clock in the morning after your first meal and set your day up how you want. I understand how those things are, and then that makes it easy for me to relate to prospective clients in terms of, if they had to train early in the morning, if they had to train late in the evening, and how to optimize things to their lifestyle. Because you'll know as well as me, Eric, that the number one reason why people don't achieve their goals is because they can't adhere and stick to a plan. And that's because it's not adjusted to necessarily their lifestyle and their requirements of what they have. And if something's not sustainable in the long term, it's not actually going to be attainable for them because they cannot be able to maintain what it is. And you mentioned to me earlier before we started that I've been traveling loads. How do I manage to keep on top of everything from a work perspective? And that just comes down to having a core set of principles, which we could talk about later in the show.
Yeah, no, and I think that at the end of the day, like we've created this as a society, we created this kind of environment where you go on social media and you see people who are professionals and they're obviously in shape, right? And you look at them, it's like, yeah, sure, they can be in shape because this is their job, right? That's all they do. They don't have works to go. They don't have kids. They don't have this and that. And what we don't realize is that in many cases, there's there's always a way around it, right? Obviously, I'm not talking. You're not going to be LeBron James in your spare time. That's just not going to happen, right? But like you can always get to like really good levels of performance, health, energy levels, all that stuff, just by being strategic about okay, this is my schedule. These are the things I need to do. Talking about non-negotiables and all that. So into that like kind of idea, what would you say from a transformation perspective from someone who's maybe who has a normal job, maybe 9 to 5, have a couple kids? What would you say are like the fundamentals, the thing that okay, if you're gonna start somewhere, you're gonna start here, and this is how you're gonna build yourself up to a better physique, a better health, a better condition?
So the way we work with our training at CJ Coaching is we have a 4-phase approach, which is a priming phase, which is initially focusing more on the habits. We then go into a fat loss phase because most people's primary goal is fat loss. We then reverse diet, and then we go into performance phase, which is more strength and muscle building and aesthetics. So the first thing you want to look at, which I mentioned there, is in terms of almost like the foundational phase in terms of habits. It's making sure that you can create something that's sustainable for your lifestyle. So, for example, we actually have a lot of clients who come to us who are beginners. They don't like working out in the gym, and they don't really want to lift weights, and they think they can't do the program. It's like, if your goal is fat loss, you don't have, like, the most important thing is you're in a calorie deficit. So with those people, we're literally like, okay, what do you like doing? What do you like doing, Eric? Okay, you like mountain biking. Awesome. I want you to go mountain biking 4 times a week for an hour, and I want this is going to be your nutrition plan. How's that sound? Like, that's awesome. I go mountain biking 4 times a week. And then they follow the nutrition plan, they lose loads of body weight, they get to do what they love. And then once they start to get that progress and the wins come through, we can then slowly maybe start to try and get them into the gym. Because one of the biggest reasons people don't achieve results is because they lack confidence and they don't feel that they can actually do it. And that's one of the big things in terms of why I get frustrated with gimmicky stuff that's put on social media, because people try these things, they fail, and then they blame themselves, and then they won't try again. So that's why it's important for prospective people who are looking to get in shape to try and get them quick results at the beginning, see momentum and progress, and then they get confidence in themselves. And then us as coaches, we can start to try and push them maybe more into what we want them to do if someone's not in a weight training perspective. And in terms of the same thing, if like people are busy with family and kids, you don't have to go to gym 5 times a week. You do 2 to 3 weight sessions a week. If you go to gym, you can get awesome results with that, and just keep things dialed in and proficient with your nutrition, and you'll get awesome results.
So it's a little bit of starting on the foundation, right?
Yeah.
What I'm getting from here is that a lot of people think that they need to do a bunch of stuff and that they need to completely change their lifestyle, and it's just about making little tweaks here and there and kind of like making them sustainable and making them constantly so they can keep on leveling up. When it comes to all these gimmicks, because I really want to get into this topic with you. All this, because obviously social media is great, right? There's a whole of like super incredible information out there, but it also gives a platform to a lot of people who don't really know what they're talking about. They maybe have hiding intentions. Maybe they don't even have like they're trying their best to help people, but they just don't know like their signs. They're doing it on a good faith, but they're just misleading people. So, what is like from your perspective? What is like some things that people can do to kind of like differentiate, okay, is this content actually going to help me out, or is this just kind of like a gimmick that is going to try to get something from me? Or how can really people like separate the good stuff, the thing that works, from the thing that is just going to be a waste of time?
So that's actually a really good question. I actually did a presentation with our clients on Sunday because it seems to be a lot. I don't know why, it seems to be a lot of stuff going around about this at the moment. So the big skill that we almost try and teach people is learning to think, like apply logic and think critically for yourself. So for example, if I put something up like a day or two ago, there's a guy who's pretty jacked. He was doing like a dumbbell curl. He was doing a bicep curl with a dumbbell holding the sides. Like,
Yeah, I saw
that's
that.
the most fucking stupid thing in the world. Like, just use the fucking dumbbell and hold the handle. Like, things like this is what irritates me, because then like your average guy, but like, that guy's got massive arms, that's what you need to do. Is like, no, like just trying to teach people logic is really, really important. And I think people understanding that necessarily everyone's trying to sell you something. I suppose to a degree, we're trying to sell you something. We're trying to sell you how to train and actually eat correctly for your goals, rather than trying to use something gimmicky that looks different, that's like red shiny object syndrome. And I think what people need to conceptualize is like since exercise has been invented, if you can call it invented, that guys and girls have been getting in sick shape for a long period of time, doing basic things. These basic things haven't really changed over a period of time. We don't really need to change these things over like the last 100 years, because human anatomy hasn't changed over the last 100 years. So I think it's important that people understand that generally, for you to achieve really good results, like none of this shit really means. The most important thing is the 95% is you being consistent, and then you turning up to do whatever you're supposed to be doing, like training hard. And those two things, if you do those, you work out hard and you're consistent, even if you're doing the wrong things, you'll get some results. But most people aren't going to do those. So if you can tick those two boxes, I would then just add in the third thing of thinking, okay, let's just try and do the basics really well, and you can build a phenomenal physique from that without trying to do like, well, I don't know, like a dumbbell press with 1 foot on a Bosu ball, like whilst rubbing your stomach, which is like some of the stupid stuff you see sometimes.
Yeah, there's a couple of guys out there who are just like putting like a freaking million bands and chains on them, like just doing stuff with, like, and the problem is that these guys, like the majority of these kind of guys, like they're jacked, like they're like super big, and they're like in a really great physique. But what people need to understand, they didn't get there by doing those exercises. Like it's just that's where, and listen, I'm the first one who, when I post a workout every 3 days, right, on social media in many days. And I know you post a lot of workouts, and I assume, I don't know if that's the case, but I'm gonna assume it's pretty similar. Um, all of those workouts are different, right? All those workouts are like normal workouts with different exercises, whatever. But that does not mean those are the workouts that I'm personally following. Because if I was doing a different workout every 3 days, then it will be really, really hard for me to achieve my goals. That's why I don't post my own workouts, because my workouts would be like super, super boring. Like you would see 4 different workouts, and then you see the same workouts for like 12 weeks. So I don't know if that's the same case with you. You keep your workouts pretty much the same. You change them a lot, but like a lot of people see these guys just posting like a bunch of different exercises that are just like super innovators, and they'll just like losing a lot of different movements, and they're like, oh wow, that's why they're so jacked and I'm not, because they're doing that one thing while I'm still doing bench press and squats. And in reality, that's just the way of just creating some more content. And the problem is that when people position that as this is the thing that got me here, while in reality, that's just like you mentioned, that's just having fun on the gym, or just being dumb sometimes.
The best example of this is vegan diets. So there's a few vegan trainers now, for example, who promote vegan diets and vegan programs to get in shape. However, they got jacked to eating loads of meat, taking anabolic steroids, and got in that condition. And then now they're a vegan and they sell vegan diets and say this is the way. It's like, but you didn't do that to look like that. That's not what achieved you that. And it'd be like the same thing as me being like, I love eating steak and red meat. It's like if I said now like, oh, vegan diet's the way you look how I look, it's a lie, because that's not what I actually did. And that's why I'm very much into like documenting exactly what I do, like good, bad. I had a cookie yesterday after training because I wanted to have one. Like, I'll just post it because it's relevant and it shows the truth. And I think the problem is there's too much smoke and mirrors in social media, which then makes people disheartened because they think, oh, I can't have a cookie after training because I'll get fat or whatever, which is why I want to show is like, if I'm going to do it, I'll still do it and I'll still look sick. Like, it's understanding you can do this. And like what I said earlier in terms of the most important thing is being consistent. As long as you're consistent, say in terms of nutrition, as long as you're 80-90% there, but you're consistent all the time. If you want to have the odd cookie after working out or something like that, that's fine. And it comes down to the core principles about how you have a fit and healthy lifestyle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's just about like you mentioned, you can have the best program in the world, and if you don't show up, you're gonna get zero results. That's just how it's gonna be. And you can have a program that's maybe not that good in terms of like your nutrition and your workouts and all that, but if you stay consistent, then you're gonna get some results regardless. So at the end of the day, obviously the main thing for a fitness transformation is for you to be consistent. If you're not consistent, then it's going to be barely impossible for you to get any results. Now, once you get that consistency going, and that's something that we focus on with my own clients, at least on my programs, that the first 2-3 weeks, they have the entire program and the entire nutrition, the entire workouts, all that. And I don't really care if they're perfect, they're close to perfect. All I care is that they're showing up. They're building the momentum. They're building the habit of now I'm working out. Now I'm getting used to going to the gym. I'm getting used to tracking my calories, all that. If you're perfect, you're not perfect. Obviously, you're not going to go from 0 to 100 in 1 week just because you're starting a new thing. That's just not going to happen. It's going to take some progress. But at the end of the day, if you are committed to, you know what, I'm going to show up and I'm going to keep on being consistent. Once you have that, that's when we can start talking about, okay, what's going to be the best strategy? What's going to be the things that I can do? What are going to be the things that I cannot do? And again, just understanding that you're not going to be perfect. Like I'm sure it happens to me a lot. Maybe it's the case, maybe not with you, but like I would go over my diet 3, 4, 5 times a month, and not like there's gonna be some other times where I plan for it, but there's gonna be 4 or 5 times a month that I didn't plan for it, and it just happened. Well, in the big scheme of things, like it's not gonna be a big deal, but people tend to see these things out. Oh, I failed one day. I'm just gonna, I'm just gonna have to start all over on Monday. So those kind of things can like hold people back a lot, don't you think?
Yeah. So the two biggest tips I'll give to anyone is this applies to everything in life. It's people thinking the micro, not the macros. If people trying to look into the zoomed, they zoom in too much. So they worry about the meal, they worry about the day, whatever. So we're looking at fat loss, for example. What you want to do is you want to zoom out. All you want to do is focus on being in a calorie deficit for a consolidated period of time, for a week, a month, 3 months, whatever. If you do that over a consistent period of time, you will lose weight. It's as simple as that. Whereas what happens is people look too much in the zoomed in. They focus on being in a calorie deficit, say Monday to Friday, and then the weekend comes around and they get in the fuck it mentality, like, oh, I've had an Oreo biscuit and I'm now going to have a whole pack, and then they get a pizza and then they have full fat Coke or whatever, and they end up having like 8,000 calories at the weekend. That's offset the other 5 days they've done, and they don't make any progress. Monday comes around and you feel guilty again, and it's that vicious cycle. This is what I tend to see over and over again. So I think people just trying to understand the most important thing is try and zoom out and control the bigger time perspective, and then not having the fuck it mentality. And here's another thing I think is a huge thing for people to think about with their nutrition, and this is something I like to call like the danger zone. And that's like, no one ruins their diet generally at 9 o'clock in the morning. People screw up their diet in the evening, 6 till probably 10 p.m. or wherever they go to bed.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can control that window of time, keep that like on track roughly, you will not have a problem, because that's when most people, they go into the fridge, they go through the cupboards, and like I was saying with you, Eric, I'm the same. I can't let myself buy dark chocolate if I'm on a diet, because I keep it in the fridge. Every time I open the fridge, I end up eating some of it. So like I realize I've gone through 100-gram bar of dark chocolate in 2 days. So I'm like, I'm eating 50 gram, I'm eating like 400 calories a day or something from this. I'm like, this is probably not optimal. So then I just won't buy it anymore. But again, that comes down to self-awareness, and also calling yourself out on your own bullshit of being like, of not having the little bitch voice in your head being like, oh, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. Because at some point it's not going to be okay. And like those things will slow down your results.
It's a little bit of like like you mentioned, be self-aware of what is your relationship with food. Like, why are you eating? Because like you mentioned, that happens to me as well. Like, I open the fridge, and for the longest time, it was like, if I open the fridge, I need to take something out of it, just because it's a habit,
Yeah, fact, right?
right?
You
It's
go
just,
looking for something.
yeah, I mean, I don't even know what I want, and then I see, like you mentioned, I see like a piece of chocolate right there. Like, oh yeah, that's what I was looking for. No, I was not looking for that. I just opened the fridge just because I was in the kitchen, and so it's a little bit of like being aware of what's driving your action, and calling you out, and understanding that some days it's going to be perfect, some days it's not going to be perfect, but at the end of the day, what matters is, like you mentioned, the big picture, right? um and I think a big problem that, and that it's in the fitness industry, is that a lot of people see their journey as a fitness program. What I mean with a fitness program is that we as coaches, we work with, like, this is a 3 month, a 6 month, 12 month, 24 months program. But that's just to get you running, right? We're not, the idea is not that you complete a program, or you do a challenge, or you do a diet that's going to be X amount of days, and then you're set for life. Like, your fitness journey is something that you're going to be, once you start on it, you're going to be on your fitness journey for the rest of your life. So you need to take that approach, like you mentioned, to like zoom out and be like, I it's important what it comes in the next 6 months, 12 months, whatever, but it's more important what it comes in the next 10 years. So, are the decisions that I'm making today going to be sustainable, not 6 months from now, but 10 years from now? Because I don't know. I don't know if you've done, well. I assume you've done like photo shoot preps and maybe even competition preps.
Yeah, those
Um,
compete. Yeah, I've competed a couple times as well.
you compete, right? So we can do those kind of diets. Like, we have a deadline. It's like, you know what, I'm gonna do this because that day is coming. And that's it. But no one is keeping that. No one is keeping that regimen for the rest of the life. Like, and we know it, right? But a lot of people get into their own transformation with that idea of, I'm gonna transform for 6 months, and I'm just gonna go super hard, and I'm gonna slam everything. And what happens is that the end date comes, and they're like, screw this, I'm not doing this anymore. And they get all the way back to day one, and then they have to do it again 2 years later.
So this is what's really important. I think people need to listen to, and particularly if you're sitting on the fence right now and you don't know how to tackle your health and fitness. If you're out of shape, all you need to do is one big diet in your life, whether that's 3 months, 6 months, 12 months. And throughout that process, myself or Eric will teach you the principles for life of how to maintain that in terms, and which is what I was alluding to earlier in terms of, okay, like I'm traveling around North America like a fitness degenerate and skiing and working, doing whatever. Like, my diet's a bit all over the place. However, I'm actually getting leaner because I have a set of principles that I will follow. So I know, for example, I will try and I'll make sure that the minimum requirement, I will hit 200 grams of protein per day. I'll make sure that I will roughly hit my calorie intake that I need to. I'll make sure that I'm active every day, whether that's I will ski or I'll lift weights. I make sure I do something. And those key components are my principles are enough to get me to lose fat. They can be different for every individual, obviously, but you will have these principles after you've been through your one big diet, which you'll need to in your life if you've never been in shape, because you will learn what works for you in that process. Someone can guide you through it, and then it's easier to maintain it and even make progress once you come out the other end and got rid of most of the body fat and other crap you need to get rid of.
It's more about understanding, like, what is this doing to myself? Like, why am I doing the things that I'm doing? Why am I eating this, not eating that? Why am I working this, not working that? And at the end of the day, once you understand that, that's that's literally all you need. Because let's be honest, like, we and you way more than me, but we've done our certifications, we've done our studies, we know our biology, anatomy, and all that. But when it comes to maintaining a physique, it's really really simple. Like, it comes down to two three little things. Like, you need to get your calories right, you need to get your training right, get your recovery right. That's it. You don't need to understand how micronutrients work into your bloodstream, or how, like, all these chemical reactions are going. You need to keep it really really simple. And sometimes people think that once you and I really believe that for many people, they're not getting to where they want to be because they think maintaining it is not going to be worth it. Like, I'm gonna need to make so many sacrifices to be lean. I'm gonna need to make so many sacrifices to be fit, that it's just not gonna be worth it. And what they don't realize is that It's not complicated. You just need to put the fundamentals in place. And once you do that, then it's actually pretty straightforward.
It, it's easier to be in shape and be healthy than not be in shape and be healthy. Because how difficult is it when you've got a health problem, you have to go to the doctor all the time, you're going to have surgeries, you're not going to be around long enough to see your kids get married. That's what you call real problems, rather than you can't be asked to go and do 10,000 steps every day, or whatever it might be.
Yeah, and I think that's the big miss for many people. Now that you mentioned about you traveling a lot and all that, and I did mention I was going to ask you about this because this is super interesting to me. What are like how do you make sure that you are on track with your meals and your training while you travel a lot? Because many people have this problem, and at least I have a lot of members who travel a lot for work. They may even traveling in between timelines and stuff like that. So how do you manage the hotels, the restaurants, the different activities, and make sure that you stay on track during all this time?
So the most important thing I actually alluded to earlier was making sure, so from a nutritional aspect, one thing is to make sure that you're getting the adequate amount of protein you need. So one thing I'd recommend for people if you struggle with this is to use protein shakes. So you can take protein powders with you on the airplane. You can put them in Ziploc bags. You can travel with supplements. There's no issue about that. A lot of people have a paranoia that are going to get stopped at security. You won't. They don't care. It's fine. They've got bigger things to worry about. So that would be a big one. You can also buy pretty much protein drinks. If you're in North America, pretty much anywhere now, you can get some protein bars that aren't too bad. So protein's a big one that I would look at. And it's pretty easy to get to have. Even so, if you stay in a hotel, so for breakfast, most places will do an egg white omelette if you want that. So I would often get an egg white omelette and 2 or 3 poached eggs, something like that would be, that's like probably 40, 50 grams of protein there. That would be 25% of my day's protein done, bang, already. And then I'll probably have 2 meals out, like lunch and dinner. Again, I would just go something for like a clean protein. You can even have something like a salad, whatever you want. Steak is always a good option. There's always plenty of things. And I think as people just need to not stress about things and always just try and make the best decision they can make at the time, because there's always going to be a better and a worse option. One of the things I'd say is people need to think about setting themselves up for success. So, for example, do not go to and eat as much like Chinese restaurant when you're on a diet and trying to lose weight, and like it's just a bad idea. Whereas if you went to like a steak restaurant and you had a nice steak, you could have a steak, potato, rice, whatever, vegetables, have a really nice time, and it's not gonna, it's going to be on track with your nutrition. So that's what the way I would expect people to look at nutrition. From a training aspect, I think if you're traveling a lot, you actually need to train a bit less, because if you're flying, that puts a lot of stress on your body. So I'd actually suggest you probably try and rest a bit more and maybe just like reduce your calories a little bit. So I would have a different diet from when I work out and different diet from when I'm not working out for like rest days, which is the same thing we do with clients. You don't need as many carbs, for example, if you're not weight training. And that's really how I would look at that side of things. But with the training, I will change my own training, for example, and a lot of time for clients, to like an upper lower training split. So, and as long as I can do 2 sessions over a week, or a client can do 2 sessions over a week and they're really busy, that will maintain muscle mass. If you want to lose body fat, all you then need to do is just make sure that you're eating slightly less calories in your body every day, which, in my opinion, if you're traveling, is actually easier, because like if you're working at home, like you said, it's easy to get lured into the fridge. Whereas if you're on the go, like I nearly got lured into the fridge earlier. It's a good story. I went to go looking for some dark chocolate or something because I was hungry. I opened the fridge and there's nothing there. There's like Gatorade Zero, steak mince, and chicken breast. I was like, yeah, so there's nothing for me to snack on. And it's the same thing in terms of if you're staying in a hotel, unless you eat this shit in a minibar, which you shouldn't be doing, but there isn't stuff to snack on. So in some respects, I think it's easier for people to lose weight when traveling. And the other big gem I'd say is hotels always have cardio equipment generally, so you can do that. But just go for a walk. Like if you're in a new city, like you go to New York, it's easy to do 30,000 steps. Like if you're in a new place, just walk, explore, get a coffee, wander around, like do 10 laps of Walmart. It's probably like 15,000 steps. Like it's easy. That's my opinion. That's why we try and teach people it. And I think the best way is you've got to let people experiment and almost, again, have a core set of principles they have to work by, and let them feel it out themselves, rather than trying to be like, you have to take your scales with you, you have to go and weigh everything. Like I have got a set of scales here, but I'm gonna be here for a few weeks, but I don't need to, because I can probably eyeball what, I don't know, 150 grams of chicken breast would be, because we've done it a million times, and you know what an appropriate portion is. And the same thing when people go into restaurants, you know what an appropriate portion is. So for a portion of protein, size your fist is a good example. If you want to do the same thing in terms of size a portion of carbohydrates, that's a way to give yourself portion control. Another one would be if you're going for breakfast in a hotel. Like, I love breakfast in hotels. I went to the Fairmont in Whistler, it was baller. And I was like, you could go well overboard there. And I was like, okay, I have like a one plate rule. I have one plate, I get as much on it as I want, I can have that. So like, by the time you've got your eggs on there, you've got your omelette on there, 2 pieces of toast, I can get a bit of fruit in there, and I'm done, basically. Like, giving yourself some restraint and like rules to live by and always having fun with it is the best way, rather than trying to be super strict, because when you're traveling, you can't be super strict. You just have to be flexible.
Yeah. No, and I think it's you really hit on the goal right there, because it really all comes down to making sure that you're making the most logical decisions, right? At the end of the day, this is not rocket science. Like, you can really just give it a thought and be like, okay, what is the best option here? What should I be doing? And there's always options. There's always ways to go. And I like the fact that, like you mentioned, and guys, let me just put this out, because I know Charlie's not going to say it, so I'm going to say it myself. This guy is on pro condition right now. He's like in like amazing shape, and he's been for years. Like, I've known him for at least 3 years, and I haven't seen you in a bad shape yet. And I don't know if you say 3 weeks in the same place ever. Like, I know you travel a lot, you're everywhere at all the times. So if Charlie and listen, this is not like, because some people might think, oh, Charlie is a fitness pro. He does, like, all he does in his days is working out and eating. This guy has a freaking business that is a freaking empire. So he works his ass off, like me or any other person who's listening here. So he has the same struggles that we have, and he stays maintain that physique and that leanness all year round, while traveling, while working, while doing all that. So the goal here is that there's no excuse for anyone to say, oh, but I need to stay unhealthy, oh, I need to stay unfit because this and that. At the end of the day, we all have the same time, we all have the same options. And sure, someone might have it a little bit easier than others, but there's always a way around.
I agree. And I also say the one thing is, like, I like having fun. I like living my life, and I don't want to, like, people who could be like, oh, but I like eating out. Dude, I fucking eat. Like, when I was skiing like 2 weeks ago, we eat out like every day, like twice a day, and I'd eat what I want. I was getting like steak, peppercorn sauce, fries, whatever. But like, when you know how to do that, and it's something that myself and Eric can teach, you can still get results. Like, I love cheesecake, and if I want to have cheesecake, I have cheesecake. I had a cookie yesterday. It was awesome. Like, if I want to have something, I know I can have it. But again, like, the devil's in the dose. You don't do that every single day. And like, this is actually, it broke my heart a bit. There was when I was driving from, it's a bit sad that I said that, but it did. I was driving somewhere through the mountains, and there was this place we stopped to go to the toilet. It was like a diner thing. And it legit had the best desserts I've ever seen. And you know, when you have one of those days when you're feeling a bit shit, and my stomach was playing up, and I was like, I felt like I'd eaten a bit of like a prat the day before. I was like, I'm not having it. I'm not having it. And I didn't have a dessert. I didn't buy one. I really wanted one. And then we went to the next town, and the food was crap. And I was like, I should have just bought it. But that's random off. But like I say, I just want to show that we're human, because like, we all like, I like the finer things in life, but it doesn't mean you can't have nice food and enjoy yourself now and then and still be in awesome shape. Because I think that's what people think, is you just eat chicken and rice, when this could be any further from the truth.
Mm-hmm. And circling back to what we said, even if we have one of those days where, like, I've had that as well. Like maybe I just it was a birthday party. I didn't plan correctly for it, and I just went over whatever I needed. At the end of the day, when we talk about calorie deficit, when we talk about losing fat and making progress, you're not looking at the day to day. Like, obviously, you go over your calories by 1,500 calories today. It's not going to be the end of the world, because you still have 364 more days to make progress this year. So in the big scheme of things, like, there's always room to play. There's always things that you can do around it to make sure that you're getting the progress. So just to kind of like wrap
one thing, actually, sorry, one thing I forgot to mention, I didn't actually, sorry to cut you off, I just remembered. this is literally probably one of the best things that I found working. So this is a really easy hack anyone can implement. So for example, when I came out here, I flew from Dubai to Toronto, which was like a 15-hour flight, and then Toronto to Vancouver, which is like a 5-hour flight. Like two really important things. One thing I'd really recommend people fast when traveling and flying, because it's really good for protecting your digestion, because a lot of people will get really bad stomachs from flying, particularly if they're trying to digest crappy processed plain food, and also carbohydrates also have an inflammatory effect. So I'd recommend people try and fast on the days they're flying. I didn't fully fast. I had, I think, some protein and fat meals on that day, but like maybe one or two over, like, otherwise I'd end up fasting for like 36 hours with the time difference. So that's a huge, huge one, because why this works, for example, you're going on a holiday for a week, and on Monday, you fly from, say for example, London to Dubai, and then you don't eat all day. So this is what I used to do. This worked really, really well. So I'd get a flight at 9:10 out of Gatwick. I would land in Dubai at, I think, like 7 p.m. in the evening their time. I would land, have dinner, and I haven't eaten any calories. So I know for me, that's like, okay, I can eat probably 3,000 calories to maintain my body weight. I can then have one meal, have whatever I want, probably have maybe 1,400 calories. I've already got banked 1,500 calories for the week of extra food that I can eat before I even hit maintenance. And then you do the same thing going back, that's another 1,500 calories. So you basically got a day's extra food to eat that you would just be sitting on the bloody plane eating shit food you don't want to eat anyway. So that's a really good hack I'd really suggest for everyone, that you try and fast when traveling, because it's also a really good way to give you like a digestion hack. Like digestion hack in terms of giving you digestion and reset. In particular, if you're a bigger guy and you eat a lot, sometimes your digestion can slow down. And the first time you do this, the difference you'll feel from it is amazing. So if anyone does try this, tag me on social media, because this is, when I learned this probably about 2 years ago, it was probably the biggest thing that made the biggest difference to me in terms of traveling, helping staying leaner. Also, like, you probably know what I mean, Eric, people stress out about flying and food and airport food. If you don't even have to fucking eat, you don't have to think about it. Just have black coffee, water, and you're good to go.
Yeah. No, to be honest, that's something that I've tried a handful of times, and I even recommend that to my clients. I gotta be completely transparent. I don't do it every time, but every time I've tried, like it really, like, you can really feel it, especially if you have like long flights, right?
Yeah.
When it's maybe like a connection flight, or here in Spain we have like 2 hour flights and whatever. Not a big of a thing, but like when you're having like big flights or big trips playing ahead, especially if you're going somewhere that you're gonna be trying out food, that you're gonna be maybe going to a resort, and it's like an all-inclusive resort, and that's gonna be really hard for us. You can like restrict what's gonna happen. Like, that's actually a really, really good hack for people to try. So
well, one other thing, sorry, I forgot to mention, if you're flying as well, and there's a lot of time difference, so you have something called your circadian rhythm, which is basically your body's own body clock, which gives you the effect of being jet lagged. One of the fastest ways to overcome that is to get your food schedule online with where you're going. So don't be eating at weird, retarded times. Like if you're waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning when you get to the US, don't wake up and have breakfast at that time. Try and get your food schedule in line with where you're going as quickly as possible, and that will help you adapt. Sorry to cut you off. I just remember to say that.
No, that's actually really, really good. I actually didn't know that. So you're saying that the circadian rhythm, like if you
affected by when you eat.
if you manipulate the hours of you eating, that can get manipulated.
Yeah, that will remove jet lag way faster, because if you think your body works on a body clock. So say, for example, I went from Dubai to Vancouver, that's a 12-hour time difference, literally the other side of the world. So I would be waking up at 7 a.m. in Vancouver when I should be going to bed at 7 p.m. in Dubai. I'm not going to bed at 7 p.m., but you know what I mean? That causes big issues in terms of like your body not knowing what time of day it is, because your body's like expecting to go to sleep, that is trying to like you're trying to give it breakfast, or vice versa. Trying to get your body on a like eating schedule for where you're going when you get there straight away is really, really important. So even if you say, for example, you landed here in Toronto today, you landed at 11 o'clock tonight, and you were in some other weird time zone, like massive time zone apart, and you wake up tomorrow morning and you don't want to eat at like 8 o'clock because you feel like it's your nighttime, you still really need to try and make yourself eat to get your body into that rhythm of trying to acclimatize to the new time zone, if that makes sense. The two biggest things that set your circadian rhythm are sunrise, sunset, and then also eating.
Yeah, so basically you're letting your digestion kind of like force your circadian rhythm to get used to the new.
Yeah, exactly that. Whereas if you're out of rhythm, so say if you're still eating in the time zone from where you were before, other than the visual sunrise, sunset, your body still thinks you're there. Your body doesn't know where you are in the world. It's just going off the signaling from your own system. And the two big signals are going to be visually and then food you're ingesting, because your body doesn't know anything else other than that. Like when you think about it, like it doesn't know what time of day it is. It just knows if the sun's up, and it just knows when you would normally eat, because you're not going to eat when you're asleep.
That's Man, that's actually really good, guys. I'm here taking notes myself. Hopefully you guys are taking notes as well, because this is gold right here. Well, Charlie and I we're gonna be in the United States in a couple. Well, actually, is in less than a month, and
Yeah, it's just not.
yeah, and you guys can bet I'm used to this. Like I'm already putting down on my notes. I'm doing I'm adjusting this because you know.
And another one, actually, another one I'd add in as well is taking a lot of electrolytes when you fly, because it massively depletes you from electrolytes and minerals.
Mhm.
So like I noticed I get really bad cramps the day after flying,
Yep.
like when training or whatever. I had it yesterday in my abs, like randomly. I won't ask you what I was doing, but yeah, it's yeah. But like for example, like electrolytes are really important to take in. You can probably guess why I'm laughing, but yeah, there you go.
Yeah. No, but this is so key, because and this is something you also mentioned, but I do share with my clients when you're after flying, especially if you're doing like a big like a long flight, you're gonna be sitting for a long time, like stretching and having a proper warm up the day after before your
Yeah,
workout,
really important.
because many times we think we're like we don't understand that our body actually fly in a thousand kilometers per hour for 7 hours. Like we don't feel it because we're sitting on the plane, but the stress of all that momentum, the stress of all that movement, it's on your body, and it's on your muscles, and on your joints, and the different pressures on the air and whatever. So we sometimes we don't realize how much of a take it has on our body, and then we try to go into a normal workout, and all of a sudden we can do half of it. We get cramps, like you mentioned. We can even put ourselves at risk of injuries. So it's really important when you're really having like these common trips, to make sure that after that you almost treat it as a workout, right? You almost try to recover from it like if it was a workout.
One thing which I think is a really good hack that's helped me, if people can do it. I didn't manage to do it when I landed here because I didn't know anyone, but I like if I go in and out of Dubai, I'll always try and get like a deep tissue massage the day before I leave, and I get one straight afterwards the day afterwards, mainly just to work through my lower back, because regardless if you're in economy, business class, wherever, your back's going to get fucked, because you don't really want to be like lying or sitting on a bed for like 10 hours, which is uncomfortable. And as you said, flying puts a huge amount of pressures on your body. There's a huge amount of radiation exposure that people don't realize, because you're so much closer to the sun, which is actually one of the recent interesting things I found out speaking to one of the Emirates air stewardesses, that they're not allowed to donate organs if you work an airline, if you're a pilot or an air stewardess.
Because all the
Yeah.
radiation is happening on the like it's,
I presume it's because of the radiation, but they're not allowed to.
wow. That's interesting. That I didn't know that. And I mean, it makes sense. It makes sense because like we don't realize like we're a lot closer to the sun. Like the radiation, like that's the
It's about
atmosphere.
35,000. Yeah, 35,000 feet for 14 hours. You do that maybe twice, 3 times a week for 10 years. That's a lot of exposure.
Yeah, no, definitely. Wow, that's a lot of really good insights. If you guys travel a lot, this was probably one of the most insightful episodes that we had so far. So Charlie, just to kind of like wrap this up, if we've touched about a lot of different things, and I want to kind of like take the best of every one of the things that we talked about. So if someone is trying to start a transformation, right? Or maybe they're in the middle of the transformation. They've been trying for a while. They don't see the results they would like to. What would your advice would be in terms of like where to find help Interesting, because you also mentioned, oh, a trainer should be in shape. That's your opinion. I think that's true as well. But the fact that someone is in shape does not mean there's going to be able to help you, right? Because the fact that I know how to transform myself doesn't mean I know how to transform you. So how can people kind of like separate the, because nowadays, like, every kid who's gone to the gym for like 2 years and got some size is now a coach, right? So how can we
Yeah.
separate from who's going to be able to give me the results and teach me? Because that's the most. A lot of people can give you results because they will give you things to do for the next 6 months or 12 months. But I don't want that for my guys. For my guys, the listeners, I want them to learn how to transform their body and keep their body for the rest of their life. So how do they separate? How do they choose which is going to be a coach, a workout plan, or a diet that's going to help them and sustain it over the years? How can they separate that with like all these other crap that's on the internet right now?
I'm glad you said crap because I agree. Problem with the internet is everyone can label themselves or whatever. And respectfully, I qualified as a trainer when I was 18. I was strong. I could lift stuff. I looked reasonably okay. And I was training people, but I look back now and I knew nothing. I still feel like I know nothing, but this is a thing: is you need to be open-minded, and anyone who says they know everything is lying. Like I think you said, I've been training recently with a guy here called Mike Van Wyck, who's a legend and like really different in terms of training styles. And like for me, I'm incredibly passionate about training and nutrition and learning, which is why when you set me off on the topic like randomly about travel, whatever, I can just rattle on about it like with anything. But what I would suggest the most important thing people need to look for, as I said, people obviously being in shape is important. But secondly is, have they done it with other people, and have they done it repeatedly with other people and different types of people and people who look like you? Because respectfully, it's very easy to get someone in shape who has good genetics. That's easy. It's trying to get people in shape who haven't got good genetics.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing I'd say is that why it's important in terms of trying to go with a trainer who's experienced, because we say this to people who are like, oh, I could get a trainer and pay them X amount. It's like, okay, that's cool. If you're going in for who's cheaper, for example, if you were going in for, say, for example, heart surgery, do you want a surgeon who's turning up for the first time, who's never done a surgery before? Or do you want a surgeon who's done 10,000 surgeries and he can do it with his eyes closed and he doesn't even think about it, even if you have to pay him much more? Which surgeon are you going to go to? Someone who's like digging around with a scalpel and hoping for the best, or the guy who can do it blindfold, he's done it a million times, who you know is going to make it happen? And what happens in the fact of you knowing this coach is going to make it happen, you will make it happen because you have belief in the process. And by you having belief in the process, you will get results, because the number one reason people won't get results is they don't actually believe in themselves, not the program. And that's what, like, my biggest gift is giving people self-belief to then maximize their potential, because I'm not gifted, but I've learned how to maximize the skills I have and how to acquire more skills to then make myself better. And again, it's the same for the individuals. It's trying to master the psychology of the client and then work out, okay, this is where they need the handheld, this is where they need a bit of a push and told to man up. And that's what's important in terms of coaching. I think you probably agree with that.
No, I agree with that 100%, and I think it's a really good mindset shift that you propose there. It's not is this coaching program going to help me? Is this playing going to help me or not? Is am I going to trust it enough to give it a fair chance? Because like you mentioned many times, and I've seen this in my own circle, right? I don't even need to talk about clients, but I can talk about my own circles of friends and family, that they start something that is helping them is really good, and then at some point, for some reason, they're like, oh, it's just not going to be the thing for me. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, this is going to be the thing for me because I saw it and it's new, and that red shiny object syndrome, right?
It's red. Yeah. As I said, yeah, it's red shiny objects. So people are like, oh, there's this new gimmick over here of like this magic keto pill that like drops extra body fat by a fairy turns up in the night. And it's like, it doesn't work like that. What you were doing before was working. And the same thing talking about workouts. And actually, you said it earlier in terms of, do I film my own workouts? I do, and actually got really repetitive because I only do 6 different workouts. So to make it look different for social media and YouTube gets very repetitive. But the reality is you don't need to change things if they're working. You just need to tweak them rather than like throwing the whole plan out the window, which is what most people think you have to do.
Yeah, I think a lot of people just literally don't give whatever they're doing enough time to achieve their goals just because they see something that's more exciting today. But then after they try that one thing, there's gonna be another thing, and then there's gonna be another thing, and then there's always gonna be the cycle that's never gonna end. And it all circles back to what we were saying at the beginning. Just follow the fundamentals. Just make sure that you're developing the habits so you can become consistent at them, and you can see yourself doing those for the rest of your life. Because this is the thing: if you don't see yourself doing something for the rest of your life, I'd rather you not do it. Because if you're only going to do it for a couple months, a couple years, even, that's what's the point? So, man, Charlie, this was, wow, this was super insightful. This was super great. I wanna kind of like give you the floor here. Where can people go and get to know you a little bit more, get to know about your work, maybe even inquire about working with you and learning all this incredible stuff that you've been sharing with us?
So it depends what sort of content people want and what platforms they like. I'm on pretty much every platform. So if you like a certain one, you search my name, it will probably come up. Well, it will come up. So Instagram's at Charlie Johnson Fitness. If you have any direct messages and fitness related, just message me directly on that. Very responsive. My YouTube channel, I pump tons of really high quality content in terms of like exercise execution and knowledge on there. I've also got my own podcast, which is called The Shredder Show. You can even type in Google shreddershow.com. LinkedIn, I've got a great profile on that as well. We also have a TikTok account, and obviously Facebook, everyone has that as well. But those are the main channels. I'd probably just message me on Instagram. And then we've recently put together a free abs training course and training program. So if you go to freeabsguide.com, there's also a copy of that if anyone wants it.
Well, guys, you've heard it. He's and when he says he's pretty much everywhere, he is. Like if you follow any platform, he's posting all the time. It's always quality content. And like I mentioned, he we were talking about who to follow and who to get bailing from, and if you wanna work with someone, to the qualities that you need to look for. Well, Charlie's someone who's done it repeatedly, and who's shown that can do it with a big variety of audiences. So you guys know I don't normally recommend a lot of stuff here in the podcast unless I really believe it, and I really believe on Charlie's work. So I will highly suggest you to research a little bit, learn from him, and definitely reach out if you need help. Before we go on, I just want to remind everyone that just a free podcast. Like we don't run any ads. We don't try to monetize this in any way. This is literally use our way to kind of like give back a little bit to our community. So the only thing that I ask for you guys is that if you enjoyed this podcast, this episode, and you think it was valuable, to go to whatever platform you're listening for and just subscribe, leave a review, and just say how much you love the podcast. And if you didn't like the podcast, you didn't like the episode, like I always say, guys, it's been, I don't even know, I don't have the number here, but it's been like 40 minutes. If you didn't like this, like, what are you doing with your life? Like, go just do something else, right? Don't stay here. All right, but if you did, make sure that you hit that subscribe, you share it with someone who might find this valuable. And Charlie, brother, again, thank you so much for coming into the show, for adding this much value. This was a blast, and I'm sure it's going to help a lot of people.
Pleasure. Thank you.
All right, and everyone else, I'll see you guys in the next episode of the Real Fitness Show next week. Take care.